Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Let's check this out. Mark Carney's full speech at the World Economic Forum in Davos, which has always been like a spark point for, right-wing conspiracy theories. And not even just right-wing conspiracy, I think conspiracy theories in general about the globalist agenda. The WEF, and you're gonna own nothing and you're gonna love it. And I think, some of that potentially does have merit, but a lot of it is just kind of nut job hand wringing. Let's hop into it. Carney's full speech. I'm coming to you from Canada, small town Canada, and I'll give my thoughts on it. Let's go.
It seems that every day we're reminded that we live in an era of great power rivalry, that the rules-based order is fading, that the strong can do what they can and the weak must suffer.
It's fading. It's over.
They must. And this aphorism of Thucydides is presented as inevitable, as the natural logic of international relations reasserting itself. And faced with this logic,
I have to quickly comment. I got to chuckle at even the thought of Trump watching this and just having no clue what's being said and needing like his aides to translate for him, basically.
There is a strong tendency
Probably why he was so
for
mad.
countries to go along to get along, to accommodate, to avoid trouble, to hope that compliance will buy safety.
Yeah, the go along to get along thing, that's kind of like the schoolyard bully being followed around by the kids that want to gain favor with them and just not become a target.
Well, it won't. So what are our options? In 1978, the Czech dissident Václav Havel, later president, wrote an essay called The Power of the Powerless. And in it, he asked a simple question: how did the communist system sustain itself? And his answer began with a greengrocer. Every morning, this shopkeeper places a sign in his window: "Workers of the world unite." He doesn't believe it. No one does. But he places the sign anyway to avoid trouble, to signal compliance, to get along. And because every shopkeeper on every street does the same, the system persists. Not through violence alone, but through the participation of ordinary people in rituals they privately know to be false.
Wow.
Havel called this living within a lie. The system's power comes not from its truth, but from everyone's willingness to perform as if it were true. And its fragility comes from the same source. When even one person stops performing, when the greengrocer removes his sign, the illusion begins to crack.
Dang.
Friends, it is time for companies and countries to take their signs down. For decades, countries like Canada prospered under what we called the rules-based international order. We joined its institutions, we praised its principles, we benefited from its predictability. And because of that, we could pursue values-based foreign policies under its protection. We knew the story of the international rules-based order was partially false, that the strongest would exempt themselves when convenient, that trade rules were enforced asymmetrically. And we knew that international law applied with varying rigor depending on the identity of the accused or the victim.
Yep.
This fiction was useful. And American hegemony in particular helped provide public goods, open sea lanes, a stable financial system, collective security, and support for frameworks for resolving disputes. So we placed the sign in the window. We participated in the rituals, and we largely avoided calling out the gaps between rhetoric and reality. This bargain no longer works. Let me be direct. We are in the midst of a rupture, not a transition. Over the past 2 decades, a series of crises in finance, health, energy, and geopolitics have laid bare the risks of extreme global integration. But more recently, Great powers have begun using economic integration as weapons. Tariffs as leverage, financial infrastructure as coercion, supply chains as vulnerabilities to be exploited.
So tariffs, financial infrastructure, he's speaking directly about Trump now. And I love that he's not going to mention him by name. He's just going to continually call it how he sees it, essentially, and spitting.
You cannot live within the lie of mutual benefit through integration when integration becomes the source of your subordination.
Integration becomes the source of your subordination. Damn.
The multilateral institutions on which the middle powers have relied, the WTO, the UN, the COP, the architecture, the very architecture of collective problem solving are under threat. And as a result, many countries are drawing the same conclusions, that they must develop greater strategic autonomy in energy, food, critical minerals, in finance and supply chains. And this impulse is understandable. A country that can't feed itself, fuel itself, or defend itself has few options. When the rules no longer protect you, you must protect yourself. But let's be clear-eyed about where this leads. A world of fortresses will be poorer, more fragile, and less sustainable. And there's another truth. If great powers abandon even the pretense of rules and values for the unhindered pursuit of their power and interests, the gains from transactionalism will become harder to replicate. Hegemons cannot continually monetize their relationships. Allies will diversify to hedge against uncertainty. They'll buy insurance, increase options in order to rebuild sovereignty. Sovereignty that was once grounded in rules but will increasingly be anchored in the ability to withstand pressure. This room knows this is classic risk management.
Classic risk management. Yeah, sovereignty is not negotiable, and it needs to be upheld. Where you've had Trump for months since he took office. It started with Trudeau, calling him Governor Trudeau, his comments, annexation. These things are growing in the zeitgeist. They're growing in how numerous you'll see comments, news stories about the US and the target that they have on Canada. So Carney, it is refreshing to see a leader, a world leader, speak so eloquently, so articulate, as opposed to the geriatric ramblings of a drunk uncle, such as it sounds as when Trump is speaking. So,
risk management comes at a price. But that cost of strategic autonomy, of sovereignty, can also be shared. Collective investments in resilience are cheaper than everyone building their own fortresses. Shared standards reduce fragmentations. Complementarities are positive sum. And the question for middle powers like Canada is not whether to adapt to the new reality. We must. The question is whether we adapt by simply building higher walls or whether we can do something more ambitious. Now, Canada was amongst the first to hear the wake-up call, leading us to fundamentally shift our strategic posture. Canadians know that our old, comfortable assumptions that our geography and alliance memberships automatically conferred prosperity and security, that assumption is no longer valid.
Yeah, he's talking about the old assumptions, decades-long relationship that Canada has had with the U.S. and how that's ruptured. Like he said earlier, he used that word, and it's a apt descriptor for the current situation because Canadians are not traveling to the U.S. There's a serious disconnect, a serious rupture there. Canadians don't want anything to do with the U.S. And I think a lot of other countries around the world feel the same. A lot of the European countries within the EU, and all around the world, essentially. And there's diplomacy is a tool that should be used to try to increase prosperity. American isolationism and America First policy is all well and good to a degree, I suppose, but you need to come to the table with good faith if you're seeking out partnerships. And you do want partnerships rather than just subordination. So Trump doesn't seem to understand that. And I think even everything going on in the US right now, I think he is probably realizing some of his tactics are not working too well. Everything with ICE. So his domestic policy failure, his foreign policy, his economic policy, kind of everything right now is not going that great. So I'm sure he's going to pivot here soon. And that's the thing with him, though. It's so volatile, so much uncertainty, and everything suffers for it because you can't trust his word. You might sign a deal with him, and the next week he rips it up and says, that's the worst deal ever. I'm going to force a new deal, right? So the guy is just completely untrustworthy, no integrity, and no sense of keeping his word at all.
And our new approach rests on what Alexander Stubb, the president of Finland, has termed value-based realism.
Alexander Stubb.
Or to put another way, we aim to be both principled and pragmatic. Principled in our commitment to fundamental values, sovereignty, territorial integrity, the prohibition of the use of force except when consistent with the UN Charter, and respect for human rights. And pragmatic in recognizing that progress is often incremental, that interests diverge, that not every partner will share all of our values. So we're engaging broadly, strategically, with open eyes. We actively take on the world as it is, not wait around for a world we wish to be. We are calibrating our relationships so their depth reflects our values. And we're prioritizing broad engagement to maximize our influence. Given the fluidity of the world at the moment, the risks that this poses, and the stakes for what comes next. And we are no longer just relying on the strength of our values, but also the value of our strength.
Hell yeah.
We are building that strength at home. Since my government took office, we have cut taxes on incomes, on capital gains, and business investment. We have removed all federal barriers to interprovincial trade. We are fast-tracking $1 trillion of investments in energy, AI, critical minerals, new trade corridors, and beyond. We're doubling our defense spending by the end of this decade, and we're doing so in ways that build our domestic industries. And we are rapidly diversifying abroad. We've agreed a comprehensive strategic partnership with the EU, including joining SAFE, the European Defense Procurement Arrangements. We have signed 12 other trade and security deals on 4 continents in 6 months. The past few days, we've concluded new strategic partnerships with China and Qatar.
The strategic partnership with China particularly pissed off Trump, which I found hilarious because the week before he said, oh, that's great, that's good. But I don't think there's a better indicator or a better example of just where we're at with the U.S. in that we now see the Chinese as a more reliable trading partner than the Americans.
Negotiating free trade pacts with India, ASEAN, Thailand, Philippines, and Mercosur. We're doing something else. To help solve global problems, we're pursuing variable geometry. In other words, different coalitions for different issues based on common values and interests. So on Ukraine, we're a core member of the Coalition of the Willing, and one of the largest per capita contributors to its defense and security. On Arctic sovereignty, we stand firmly with Greenland and Denmark and fully support their unique right to determine Greenland's future.
So this was before Trump's sort of about-face turn regarding Greenland, because he came out and said, oh, I got a deal, I'm the best negotiator, and I got exactly what I'm searching for, when it was really just the same thing that they'd always had. They'd always had an agreement to conduct military operations and equipment and infrastructure there on Greenland, but it was just had to be in consultation with Denmark. So
Our commitment to NATO's Article 5 is unwavering. So we're working with our NATO allies, including the Nordic-Baltic Gate, to further secure the alliance's northern and western flanks, including through Canada's unprecedented investments in over-the-horizon radar, in submarines, in aircraft, and boots on the ground, boots on the ice. Canada strongly opposes tariffs over Greenland and calls for focused talks to achieve our shared objectives of security and prosperity in the Arctic. On plurilateral trade, we're championing efforts to build a bridge between the Trans-Pacific Partnership and the European Union, which would create a new trading bloc of 1.5 billion people. On critical minerals, we're forming buyers' clubs anchored in the G7 so that the world can diversify away from concentrated supply. And on AI, we're cooperating with like-minded democracies to ensure that we won't ultimately be forced to choose between hegemons and hyperscalers. This is not naive multilateralism, nor is it relying on their institutions. It's building coalitions that work, issues by issue, with partners who share enough common ground to act together. In some cases, this will be the vast majority of nations. What it's doing is creating a dense web of connections across trade, investment, culture, on which we can draw for future challenges and opportunities. Argue the middle powers must act together because if we're not at the table, we're on the menu.
If we're not at the table, we're on the menu. Banger.
But I'd also say that great powers can afford for now to go it alone. They have the market size, the military capacity, and the leverage to dictate terms. Middle powers do not. But when we only negotiate bilaterally with a hegemon, we negotiate from weakness. We accept what's offered. We compete with each other to be the most accommodating. This is not sovereignty. It's the performance of sovereignty while accepting subordination. In a world of great power rivalry, the countries in between have a choice: compete with each other for favor, or to combine to create a third path with impact. We shouldn't allow the rise of hard power to blind us to the fact that the power of legitimacy, integrity, and rules will remain strong if we choose to wield them together. Which brings me back to Havel. What does it mean for middle powers to live the truth? Well, first, it means naming reality. Stop invoking rules-based international order as though it still functions as advertised. Call it what it is. Out of the window. A system of intensifying great power rivalry where the most powerful pursue their interests using economic integration as coercion. It means acting consistently, applying the same standards to allies and rivals. When middle powers criticize economic intimidation from one direction but stay silent when it comes from another, we are keeping the sign in the window. It means building what we claim to believe in. Rather than waiting for the old order to be restored, it means creating institutions and agreements that function as described. And it means reducing the leverage that enables coercion. That's building a strong domestic economy. It should be every government's immediate priority. And diversification internationally is not just economic prudence, it's a material foundation for honest foreign policy, because countries earn the right to principled stands by reducing their vulnerability to retaliation. So Canada. Canada has what the world wants. We are an energy superpower. We hold vast reserves of critical minerals. We have the most educated population in the world. Our pension funds are amongst the world's largest and most sophisticated investors. In other words, we have capital, talent. We also have a government with immense fiscal capacity to act decisively. And we have the values to which many others aspire. Canada is a pluralistic society that works. Our public square is loud, diverse, and free. Canadians remain committed to sustainability. We are a stable and reliable partner in a world that is anything but. A partner that builds and values relationships for the long term.
He's really going on the good advertisement here for trading partners and people start working with Canada. I hope our government can start realizing some of those benefits, because yeah, he's right. We are a resource superpower. So the government needs to start creating and utilizing those resources for the benefit of all Canadians. I hope they can start doing that, because we almost took a turn to Trumpism there before the last election, and it was only essentially because of Trump that Carney stayed in, or that Carney won. He had a resurgence. Pierre Poilievre may have challenged him for it, but yeah, Trump's attacks, because Poilievre he'd been kind of going out there and saying things and doing things that made it seem like he was aligning with Donald Trump's America. And now we have this Alberta separatist movement, the Quebecois separatist movement with a lot of U.S. influence. It's not good. It's not good.
And we have something else. We have a recognition of what's happening and a determination to act accordingly. We understand that this rupture calls for more than adaptation. It calls for honesty about the world as it is. We are taking the sign out of the window. We know the old order is not coming back. We shouldn't mourn it. Nostalgia is not a strategy. But we believe
nostalgia is not a strategy. What a banger.
That from the fracture, we can build something bigger, better, stronger, more just. This is the task of the middle powers. The countries that have the most to lose from a world of fortresses and a most to gain from genuine cooperation. The powerful have their power. But we have something too. The capacity to stop pretending, to name reality, to build our strength at home, and to act together. That is Canada's path. We choose it openly and confidently, and it is a path wide open to any country willing to take it with us. Thank you very much.
All world speech for the ages. Yeah, he killed it. Incredibly articulate, really made a lot of fantastic points about the rupture in the economic order, the international order of the world, the rules-based order, as he put it, and how these super hegemons and superpowers, namely the United States and their current president, the world can't deal with them right now. I mean, they have to, but at the same time, they're screwing up a lot of, I think in the long run for themselves, they're going to screw up a lot of stuff and really shift a lot of things worldwide. But essentially, we got 3 more years of Trump, and then we'll see what happens. We'll see if another Trumpist-like candidate emerges, and maybe they're going to continue going down this road to authoritarianism, fascism, ultra-nationalistic, ultra-militaristic, American first, America isolationism, bullying tactics, and suppression of journalists and anti-immigrant, and just everything that's going on in the U.S. right now. I think even Trump's realizing his domestic policy right now is not helping him with everything with ICE. But anyways, great speech, man. Great speech. I think it was great. Lots of bangers in there. Nostalgia is not a strategy. Come on. Just a lot of really good quotes in there. And it's whatever your thoughts are on Carney. I think he is articulate. He's a smart guy. He's got a really good resume. He hasn't been a politician forever. He's worked in the public sector, private sector. He's done a lot, and of course, there's going to be a lot of people that are critical of him and will label him as just another globalist puppet, etc. But yeah, good speech, man. All right. And there is countries that are doing the old, and other leaders too, that will bend the knee to Trump. But do what we do. All right. Later.